correction. Okay. Okay. Today, on the special 15th episode of the Copacetic Music Hour on both tilderadio and anonradio, I'm delighted to introduce a special guest, Ricardo Lemvo, whose musical influences span at least 3 continents. Ricardo was born in Kempese in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in 1957, but has roots in the historic city of Mbanza, Congo in Angola, and culturally identifies as Angolan. At age 15, he moved to Los Angeles, where he lives today. He graduated with a bachelor's in political science from Cal State Los Angeles, with plans to pursue a career in law, but instead would pursue a professional musical career by forming the band Makina Loca in 1990. A master of Congolese soukous, Angolan kizomba, and Cuban salsa music, Lemvo and his band have produced 9 studio albums, beginning with Tata Masamba in 1996, and most recently Nadona Ponte, released this past year. He has performed at the Kennedy Center, Getty Center, National Folk Festival, Los Angeles County Museum of Art, Lincoln Center, Sons of Brazil in New York, and on NPR, the BBC, the Radio Nacional de Colombia, National Geographic, NBC, and CBS, amongst others. With that, let's welcome Ricardo to the Copacetic Music Hour. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure. So just to start, I think I've shared some of your music in a previous show, and we're really interested in how you first got interested in music as a kid and a young man in Kinshasa.
Well, I excuse me, I had a cousin who owned a vast collection of Cuban music, and that was my first introduction to Cuban music. And so I would spend hours and hours listening to his records. And he had records by, the legendary bands like Orquesta Aragon, Benny Moré, Celia Cruz, Johnny Pacheco, etc., etc.
Abelardo Barroso, maybe?
Abelardo Barroso, yes, of course, yes. And also, and this is more important because we lived next to a bar, and where we were bombarded by not only Cuban music, but Congolese music, American music. And it was at that moment that I started to have these dreams, of one day forming my own band, you see. And because I remember I used to daydream, while listening to the music coming from next door. I used to daydream that I was leading the band, you see. So the dream came true when I arrived in Los Angeles. After when I was going to Cal State LA, and that's when I formed my band. And we would do, at the time, the music was just like a hobby, we would play private parties, we would play only weekends and all that. But then it was not until 1996 when we released the first album, Tata Masamba, that things began to change, you see. When that album was released, it was, the only word that I can think of is sensational, because the reaction from the public was just phenomenal. And then we started getting requests to perform outside of California. In fact, our very first gig we did outside of LA was we performed at the Festival International de Louisiane in the city of Lafayette. Okay, we played there, and then after that, we were invited to go perform in San Francisco, and from there we played in New York, and from there we played in Montreal at the Jazz Festival in Montreal. So I can honestly say that that first album, Tata Masamba, was our passport out of Los Angeles. Let's put it that way.
And when you started Makina Loca, was this with other friends in college you were performing with? I'm curious how you met the band
No, these were musicians that I knew here in Los Angeles, you see, and you know, we would get together and perform. Everybody that was with me from the beginning, I met them here in Los Angeles. You know, these were local musicians.
Gotcha, local musicians who were interested in salsa music and had experience performing.
Well, but some were bona fide salsa musician. Yeah, and others were like the guitar player, for example, was not very familiar with salsa music, but that did not matter to me because what I wanted was to do a fusion, okay, of African music and Cuban music, and that worked out perfectly.
So another question, since you talked about forming this band in Los Angeles, you would have experienced probably Los Lobos, I guess, Richie Valens a bit before you came to Los Angeles. You know, Jarocho music has African influence and is very popular in East LA. I'm curious if you collaborated with Chicano musicians performing Jarocho music, or either in high school or later.
Well, some of my musicians at the time, you know, were Chicano, you know, but we did not perform Jarocho music or anything of that sort because my band or my music, I formed my band with the purpose. The purpose was to combine, okay, Cuban music and African music, Central African music,
for that specifically matter. Congolese, Angolan, and
exactly.
Okay, so let's see for next questions. We covered quite a few here. What bands and artists would you describe as your musical influences? You mentioned some Cuban artists. I'm curious, TPOK Jazz, Ndombe.
Oh, yes. Some of my influences, okay, there are many actually. Besides the Cuban bands such as Orquesta Aragon, Celia Cruz, Abelardo Barroso, etc. Okay, there was also Franco and TPOK Jazz, Grand Calais and African Jazz, Sam Mangwana is another one, and then those are Congolese bands. But then when we move to Angola, there is Bonga, okay, Bonga, and then a few others, you know, like God, names are escaping right now. I'm not thinking straight, you know, but Nelo Pain, for example, and there is Yuri da Cunha, and those are just a few of Valdemar Bastos is another one. Those are the few musicians that I have got to know throughout the years, but you know, in some, they have really influenced me.
Have you performed with some of them? And another question I have is who your favorite other bands or artists have been to perform with or collaborate in the Congo and Angola and the United States or elsewhere?
Well, let me tell you, I have performed with Orquesta Aragon. We played in the same stage in Europe, in Belgium. We did a double bill. And then I've also did a double bill with Willie Colon in Central Park. And then, Orquesta Aragon celebrated their 60th anniversary in New York, July 3rd, 1999. And I was their guest for the evening. So I performed 5 songs, their songs, with them. And that was a dream come true because this is a band that I admire as a child. And then here I am, I find myself on stage with them performing their songs. I mean, these are songs that I I knew, you see. So it was a dream come true, performing with Orchestra Aragon.
One other artist who I'll bring up, since I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, I believe I saw, I think it was in the Kennedy Center, you performed with Israel Lopez Cachao.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We did a show with Cachao. This was in 1999. Yes. Yeah. We did a show with Cachao, and that was, it was a great night. Yeah.
Nice. So then transitioning to the next question, you've mentioned different Cuban artists you performed with and Angolan influences. I'm curious, since the mid 1970s, for historical reasons, if there were collaborations that specifically that started emerging later on between Angolan and Cuban musicians, given the historical connections between the two countries that were strengthening then.
You mean specifically between Angolan and Cuban?
Yeah, artists in both countries at the time post-independence. I know Cuba was supporting Angolan independence.
Right.
Quite,
well, there was always a cultural exchange, between the two countries, and Cuban musicians would often visit Angola, and then Angolan musician, did the same thing, performing in various parts of Cuba, you see. So yes, the cultural exchange was very, very important.
And so, as you're saying, so similar to prior to then. Let's see for the next questions here. So I'm also curious for your most recent album, for some of the listeners out there, to explain what's inspired the different songs, and also with the pandemic, there's been challenges for everyone in different ways we've handled it, but how in the pandemic you have adapted to the pandemic to distribute Ndona Ponte.
Well, the pandemic hit the music industry very, very hard. All of my shows were canceled, and this is the same for all the musicians that I know. But I had this project going, so I had to see it through to the end. So Ndona Ponte is an album that is I pay tribute to my paternal great grandmother. See, and that was her name, Donna Ponte. Her full name is Pontesiana, but Ponte for short. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to honor her because she is a woman who led a very hard life. When she gave birth to my paternal grandfather, on the day that my paternal grandfather was born, his father, or should I say, the husband of Donna Pontesiana, died on that same day. Yes. And so after that, she had to take her newly born son and move to live with her husband's her deceased husband's family. And I know life was not hard. And I never met her. Nor have I met my paternal grandfather, because he died way before I was born. And but there's something else that's very important about my paternal grandfather. His name is Don Juan Lemvo. He's from the town of San Salvador do Congo, which is Mbanza, Congo, in Angola. He, as a young man, he worked with British missionary. And then the British missionaries took him to England to work on the translation of the Bible. So my grandfather helped translate the English Bible into Kikongo, our local language.
Mhm.
And he went to England 3 times back then. The first time was in 1884, second time, and in 1884 he was only 17 years old. And then the second time was in 1893, and the last time was in 1905. Okay, so when he died, my own father was only 8 years old. You see, yes. So and so this is why I wanted to pay tribute not only to my great grandmother but also to my grandfather.
Who had translated the Bible into Kikongo,
From English.
from English
Yeah.
to
And he worked with
Kikongo.
the British missionary who was in charge of the project. His name was William Bentley. Bentley, yes. So they worked together in the translation of the Bible.
And where in England was he traveling? These three.
They were in Bristol. They were in London, and if you Google my grandfather's name, his bio is online. There's a,
Okay.
there's a bio.
Yeah, I'll share that with the listeners during the show.
There's a bio in English, in French, and in Portuguese.
Nice. And since you brought up different languages, from what I understand, your music has Lingala lyrics, Kimbundu, Kikongo, Spanish, Portuguese, and Turkish and Swahili. How did you learn? When did you start learning all these languages? I'd imagine Portuguese and French and Kikongo fairly early on. And what strategy would you say you use, or it explains how the lyrics are how the languages are combined in the lyrics of your songs?
Okay, my style is how can I explain this? What we play is happy music, you see, and happy music, and I think I believe that Kikongo, Lingala, Portuguese, and Spanish, they flow very well. They flow very, very well. Now, I speak French, but I seldom use French in my music, because I don't believe that it flows well, you see. Now, Kimbundu is also a language spoken in Angola primarily, but Kimbundu is related to the Kikongo language that I speak, so it's also, it flows very well. Okay.
It naturally blends with Kikongo together quite closely.
Exactly.
Like I know Persian. I'm of Persian heritage, and Urdu and Persian sound quite similar to each other.
Farsi baladi.
Farsi baladi. Mainly food words, kitab and for book, and danishka for university, and I guess I translate from Farsi into English for my dad, who's from Minnesota, but in reverse a bit worse, but again, something to work on.
No, I speak some Farsi. I mean, enough to get by,
Nice.
But anyway, you mentioned Turkish. Okay, I recorded one song in Turkish. Okay, I don't speak Turkish, but well, let me just tell you how the idea to record this song came about. A friend of mine, a singer from DC, a mezzo soprano. Her name is Jana. Okay, Jana Guzey. She played this song for me by an artist called Candan Ersetin, a Turkish singer, great voice. And then when she played that song for me, and I listened to it, and then I asked her to replay. I mean, she must have replayed that song for maybe 10 10 times. And then I said to her, you know what? I'm going to record this song. Okay. The original style of that song is like in a pop style, you know. And then, so what I decided to do was to slow down the music and play it in a bolero style, okay? Bolero style, and then giving it a tango bass line, okay? So I have another friend who speaks Turkish fluently, so she coached me, okay? She coached me on the pronunciation, and then she gave me a translation, you know, because I had to know what the song was about in order for me to sing it with the proper emotion, you see. So I practiced for like months. And then when I finally recorded the song, I sent it to my friend who speaks, you know, who coached me when he speaks Turkish. And she tells me, anybody who speaks Turkish will understand you, or will understand what you're saying in that song, okay? Now, let me tell you something else. My version of that song is very, very popular in Turkey, you know? Yes, so people just love it. And I've seen video online of people using my version at their weddings.
Wow, wow. We
Yes,
we have regular listeners again from all different time zones, one from Sri Lanka, several from Australia, one from Turkey, and so on. And you know, we're in, I guess, closer contact than you'd expect for a larger scale public radio show. So I'll send him. I think he was listening to that and thought and had the same reaction. You know, this is as good as native Turkish speakers. Yeah, he had checked out. Let's see for some of these other questions here. So I've shared your music on the show. Celia Cruz tonight. I know Celia performed in Kinshasa in 1974, around the Rumble in the Jungle event. One question I have is if you could explain to listeners some subsignatures of I guess first Congolese music influencing Cuban music, and then the reverse, and how they would be able to pick up on that.
No, I think. Well, let me put it this way. Okay. Cuban music, of course, at its core is very, very African, okay? Now, when you talk about the Congolese rumba, okay, what popularly known as Congolese rumba, Congolese rumba is what? It's the blending of indigenous African styles with not salsa, okay, but son montuno music that was popular in, you know, popular Cuban music of the 40s and the 50s and 60s, okay. Now,
so call and response type.
Well, yeah, but what the Congolese did, okay, not only did they combine those rhythms together, thereby forming Congolese rumba, but they would sing this in the local language, you know, either Lingala or Kikongo. And they use electric guitars, okay? In Cuban music, you know, you have the horns. So the Congolese were playing the horn lines with electric guitar, okay? And the result is just phenomenal, you see. When you listen to old Congolese music from the 50s, from the 60s, and you compare them to Cuban music of that era, I mean, you will see the similarities, you see.
Yeah. And in Cuban music, so you're mentioning in Congolese rumba, a electric guitar line. I believe I've heard the trace in the background in a lot of Cuban music. I guess as a different kind of
yeah, tres is an acoustic acoustic guitar from Cuba. The Congolese, yeah, they don't use tres. I mean, they use acoustic guitars sometimes, but mainly they use electric guitars.
Gotcha, is the main difference. Excellent. So I'll see for other questions that we have here. So we had talked before this a little bit about your family's hometown of Babanza, Congo. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about its history and particularly the religious history.
Okay.
There.
Banza Congo, again, in colonial days, it was known as San Salvador do Congo. And San Salvador do Congo, or Banza Congo, was the capital of the Kingdom of Congo. And before the arrival of the Portuguese, okay, in Angola, the Kingdom of Congo was a thriving kingdom. And its territory expanded from Angola to Democratic Republic of Congo, to Congo Brazzaville, all the way to Gabon. It was a large territory, okay? But of course, when at the Conference of Berlin in 1884, when all the European powers divided, just like a piece of cake. And then so what you have now, some people were all of a sudden members of a different country, you see, and this is what happened. But Banza Congo, historically, I mean, it was the capital of the Kingdom of Congo, a very important place.
And that's interesting. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned that the capital of a region that, and it sounds like it's at the southernmost end of the Kingdom of the Congo, given that stretching all the way north into Gabon.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. What did you say?
Sorry. That the capital was. It sounds like is at the was at the southernmost end, or close to the southernmost end of the region, the Kingdom of the Congo, being towards what's now Angola, with the territory stretching through what's now, I guess, the western part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and then the Republic of the Congo, and then Gabon.
Yeah.
And so I guess. Kinshasa and Brazzaville developed a lot later than Babanza, Congo.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kinshasa and Brazzaville, I mean, they were always there, you know, but again, the influence of the Kingdom of Congo, and it extended all the way over there, all the way to Kinshasa and Brazzaville.
Further through that region, and it was after So after the Europeans had colonized, so it's around the 1550s or so that they built the first Catholic churches in sub-Saharan Africa.
You're talking about the Cathedral of San Salvador do Congo, okay, otherwise known as Kulu Mbimbi, okay. The church does not no longer exist, but the ruins still stand. Okay, the ruins, and then this church was built in I believe it was 1549, but I'm not sure. 1549, I believe. But the ruins still stand. In fact, Pope Paul VI, I think, came to Angola and celebrated Mass at the ruins of that sacred church. You see.
And this was this was the Pope prior to John Paul II. So this was probably
I have to look it up again, but I think it was in 1991, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha. So quite recent then. We've covered so many topics and seeing if I have any other pressing questions here to go through. Let's see. I added in one fun question just that outside of music. What would you say your favorite food is and why? You know, maybe at home we'll try and replicate.
My favorite food, geez.
or multiple, you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, one, just
I don't know. I mean, I love food in general, and I love wine, but I don't know what my favorite food is. I swear to God, I don't know.
oh sure,
I
sure.
love I love a good steak, and you know, I don't eat it much because I, you know, stay away from red meat. So I eat it once in a while. You know, I love shrimps, and I love to cook. You see, so but you know, to tell you what my favorite food is, I
Oh
swear.
sure, I'm putting you on the spot and too hard. Yeah, I mean, I guess for myself, I tried Nepalese fairly recently, and I've, you know, grown tons of okra in the backyard and done various things with it. But Nepalese have that nice combination of a very chewy texture and very sour, and that was a fun new experience. Anyway, thank you, Ricardo, for making time to do this. It was a real pleasure, and I'll be broadcasting this next week, Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and then Saturday at 8 p.m. on tilderadio and anonradio, and I'll post the archive. And again, it was a pleasure to have you.
No, the pleasure is all mine. All mine. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for listening, everyone.